Dun, dun, dun. Welcome to Transform Your Relationships live from San Diego. It's Tuesday morning. Hi, Roberta.
Hi, Laura. Yes, it is Tuesday morning once again, and we're preparing for the holidays. Down here in the United States, we're having Thanksgiving very soon, and then of course we have the entire holiday season for most of the world. So, great topic today.
Yes, I know a lot of the people here are getting ready to travel, like I am, and so we have about a week and a half before the big festivities, and then, it's nothing but nonstop. It seems like, and a lot of us. Mm, I wonder about handling different relationships and how we're going to behave. And I know that when I go home, sometimes these little girl parts of me come out. I'm like, and that wasn't the pretty side. And I'm like, where was that? And what do I do? And how do I prevent it? So I have all these questions in my head about, will that happen again? Or what can I do to be on my best behavior, so to speak? Or is there another way to look at it?
Yeah, they're really, really good questions because that can provide us with a lot of anxiety, maybe low level anxiety, maybe high level anxiety, but it can also put that pervasive dread over us. Like, I'm supposed to be excited about this, but ugh, I'm not looking forward to these parts. And so I think today is a really good day to be talking about what do we do when we've got that sort of yahoo, oh no kind of experience going on when we're thinking about going home for the holidays, because we all have somebody in our life who is not easy. And often they happen to be part of our family.
And sometimes it's ourselves, not that we're not easy, but um, some people tend towards depression or they're dealing with anxieties that come up. And how do we have a happy holiday season? I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to have the best holiday ever, and versus just enjoy what's so and the gifts that are present.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's so hyped that we think that we're really failing if we're not looking forward to it and all excited about it. And then afterwards, if we don't have great stories to tell, somehow we didn't do it right. And yes, it may be us and it may be someone else, and it most likely is the combination of the two. And we have to think about this. I think this is the most important to think about. I'm not who I was last year or last time I saw these people. They may have grown, they may have changed, they may have had life experiences that have softened them or changed them in some way. Let me go with my current self, maybe with a little more compassion, a little more understanding. I'm not talking about enabling or condoning bad behavior, just open and see rather than dreading, because if we put people in boxes like they've always been, we can really make up a great story that we can start to get a lot of anxiety about.
Yeah. So what I'm getting from that to use in my own way. And what I like to do a lot of times is set an intention. And sometimes it's just a theme or a word. And two words came to mind when you were just talking. One, you said compassion, right? Come with my compassionate self. And what will also help me do that is be curious. Because, like you said, I hadn't considered, well, yeah, maybe I've changed a little bit, but they may have changed. So be open to what's new about them, where they're at now that's new. And, one of the things I love doing during the holidays. I'm with family that I don't see all the time. So I get to find out what's new in their lives. So if I can direct the energy to create a positive outcome and by being curious, I think that would be very powerful to know that I can do something and not be at the effect of, oh my God, what are they going to say? What are they going to do? How am I going to behave? Okay, I've got my intention. I'm good to go.
Yeah, and I would add to that, because I agree with every last thing you say, but I would add to that, make it about them, not about you.
Right.
Like, if you have that curiosity to learn about them, we always have this two ends of the stick, and they're extremes, but we need to know about them. I can either listen with an intent to defend myself, or I can listen with the intent to learn about the other person. And, I learned that those particular words a long time ago by a great book by uh, Jordan, Jordan Paul and Margaret Paul. And they wrote a book called Do I Have to Give Up Me to Be Loved by You? Really good book. Lots has changed since then, but that is just gold to think about. Can I make the flip in my own mind from, am I listening to defend myself, or am I listening to learn about the speaker? And just that one technique can change a whole lot, because I'm not taking all my anxiety and everything to be curious about somebody. I'm taking all that anxiety about, what about me? What's going to happen to me? Am I safe? And so it's all about me.com, as opposed to maybe having a little bit of opening to learn.
Yeah, and when we're in fear, we tend to go to that defensive place. So we can preempt it with, okay, know that fear might come up, but see if we can move back into that curious state. And by the way, if anybody's listening, they have questions, feel free to put them in the comments. Say hello, let us know you're tuning in. If you agree, if you get a great takeaway and want to capture it here, feel free to type it in. I just really want to let you know we're here for you, and it helps us if we know you're here too. So I see there's a few people listening.
Yes, and do ask your questions, because they'll pop up on our screen and we just read them and answer them. So no worries. Nobody's going to know you asked the question, but we will answer it for you. And, don't beat yourself up if you're having some dread or anxiety about it. Remember, things happened to you when you were little, and they continued to happen in a family. And that's not who you are right now, but you'll quickly go back there. Like you said earlier, will that little girl part of you pop out? That was one of your fears. Like, all of a sudden I'll behave like I did when I was 12. How dare you? You're not the boss of me. And that may be what you're thinking in your head, but it isn't empowering, right? So we want to have more conversation in our mind, like you said, with an intention to, no, I'm going to be curious first. Just anytime anxiety comes up, I don't need to be curious. I don't need to be anxious. I know how to handle anxiety. It's in my toolkit, but I'm not going to bring it out unless I need it. Don't go
Mm.
in with it front and center, because it'll show up. So important, what you bring, as opposed to all the tools and experiences and expertise you have.
And where we default to in fear. So if there's a one particular person or two or certain people in that you're preparing to deal with, there one approach, like we said, is like make it about them. See if you can direct the conversation to learn about them. And if you're caught off guard and something happens and they treat you in a certain way that it triggers that uh, lashing out or something that you don't like, what do you recommend?
Yeah, isn't that the magic bullet question? Um, first of all, I'll say this: if somebody asks you a direct question that you don't want to answer, you have the right to not answer. So know that you can divert the question. One of the ways that you can divert a question is, "Oh, that's interesting. Why would you want to know that?" Because people will ask you questions thinking that they have the right to an answer, maybe because they're older or whatever, and they've forgotten that you have now, hopefully, successfully and healthily, emotionally individuated as an adult. And they don't have power over you anymore. And yet they feel that they have the right to just tromp in where angels fear to tread. I can ask you anything and you should tell me that. So know that you have the right to take up space and draw breath and be assertive. So you can just pleasantly say, "Oh, that's curious. Why would you want to know that?" Or, "Oh, well, I could tell you a little bit about that," and then tell people what you feel safe with. Because people will pry, you know, some more blatantly than others, but they will pry. And it's because they're interested in the way the family runs, and they feel they have the right to ask family questions like, "Why haven't you had any children?" Or, "Are you going to ever get married?" Or, the big classic questions that people talk about all the time. But be settled in yourself and be able to say, That's interesting. Why would you want to know that? Or what brought that up for you? And put it back on them.
And then they say, "Oh, I only care about you. I want to stay up to date with what's happening in your life."
And that's great. And I'll tell you what I share with my friends, and then you tell them that. Like, I've made a decision that I don't talk about that anymore. And then
There you
fall
go.
silent. That's the trick. Learn how to fall silent after you make an assertive sentence.
Or ask them a question to divert the attention off of
Exactly.
you. It's like,
Yeah,
"Oh, that's great. Everything's good in that area. Tell me about blah, blah, blah."
exactly. But really, a big technique is learning when to be quiet. Like you say something, like there isn't a lot of research about that if there is more than 8 seconds of silence, the person who's most uncomfortable is going to speak. Learn to become comfortable with silence, and the other person will speak. Right? So it's a really good thing to have in your toolkit is to be comfortable with silence. You say something and you don't have to fill the air. And you particularly don't have to fill the air with an excuse, a justification, or a rationalization for why you are who you are and what choices you make.
Thank you. Navigating the holidays gives us some concentrated time where we're not in our normal routine. So it does take us out of having to, what we're used to doing. And, relationships is one of the ways we grow as people. So I like to think of it as an opportunity to observe myself in certain situations that I'm not normally in, or that I've been in before, and maybe try a new behavior pattern, or that I am not exhibiting, or I bring back a behavior pattern and really look at it to transform it at, in another time, because I don't want it coming up again. It's just like there's so much fear around that.
Well, and also there's another part of this conversation is that when you're with people who have not seen you or talked to you maybe every month at a minimum, they want to catch up and they think you're who you are when they left you last. And so they're trying to have conversation. So, be compassionate about that and then, ask them a question or catch up with them. Say, well, oh, before we talk about that, I remember that you were going to go on that cruise. How did that go for you? Because I'm really interested in that. I know all about me. So tell me about you. Right?
Preparing is good.
It
It's
is.
a good idea. I'm thinking about each of the people who I'm going to be with, and what do I want to learn from them, and what kind of experience do I want, especially the people I'm not as close to, or I'm afraid of, or seem to be afraid of me, or what have you. I think it's really good to prepare for that in just a little forethought of using some of these tools of silence, of curiosity, of compassion for them, compassion for oneself. I think there's a positive momentum that could be created by the intentions we set and the actions we take, using all these tools we're talking about.
Yeah. Don't expect them to be different. You be different. Right? That's the focus. How can I do it differently? How can I do it in a way that I feel empowered and I'm being assertive and I'm also being kind and honest at the same time? Because I know I've said that on our show before, Laura. The genius of good communication, says John Powell in The Secret of Staying in Love, is to be totally kind and totally honest at the same time. And that's a skill set. To be totally kind and totally honest at the same time means that you can be assertive. You can
Yeah,
say, this is what I think, feel, need, and want. As long as you don't say the word you, you're not talking about them. You're talking about yourself. This is what I think, feel, need, and want.
I just love that. And it's so funny. I have my deck of feminine power cards right here. And what's on the top of the deck, it sits right here in my desk drawer, is the card that says exactly what you said in another way. You can say anything to anyone when it comes from love. And it's the practice is a contemplation question. How can I say what I'm afraid to say from a completely loving space? So with kindness, without harming anyone.
Yeah, and that's lovely. And I would add that without harming yourself as well, make sure you include yourself in the anyone
Absolutely.
because we tend to put ourselves secondary, as you said earlier, and that's not going to produce a healthy relationship. There are three things that I believe that are hallmarks of a healthy relationship. That's equality, reciprocity, and mutuality. And if you don't have those three things, it's going to go sideways some. And if you are in a relationship where there isn't equality, which is what we're talking about, if you go home to older relatives and things, I don't have any of those, so I don't go home to them. But if you go home to them, and I remember doing it, that you go home and there is already this pecking order, right? It's not that we shouldn't have respect for other people. We should have respect for them regardless of their age. However, there is this sort of right to know and right to ask that we allow. And we need to make more equality in those relationships. And that's a real trick of individuation that we all need to learn, which is I can be respectful, and I hope I'm respectful in all my relationships. And I can say no.
Hmm. Saying no, being kind, being curious, knowing you have the right to take up space, like you always say. What is the difference between equality and mutuality?
Equality means that we both see each other as equally important and that respect each other equally, that we are respectful of what each other wants. Mutuality is when we do our best to support each other to get what they want.
Mm.
And it's an important distinction because we tend to err on the side of equality and we get into a tit for tat kind of scoreboard relationship. I write about that a lot in Kaizen for couples. We don't want to go there, but we want to have a reciprocity, that there is some collaboration and compromise, but we also want to have each other's best interest at heart. That's the mutuality. Like, I want for you what you most want for yourself, and I'm willing to support you to get it. That's where we get the mutuality piece. And those are hallmarks of a truly healthy relationship, as I said. But we seem to fight for the equality and not, and we keep a scoreboard for the reciprocity, but we don't have the mutuality. And that has to be present if we want to have a satisfying, loving, long-term relationship with anybody.
So, of course, I want to bring this back to hijackals because this is your expertise. So, when we talk about mutuality and hijackals, and you try to have a mutuality conversation, or they say, I really want a good relationship with you, and then, but you don't support me in what I want.
Okay, well, I mean, that's pretty broad, but if somebody said that to me, if I'm in relationship with them as a romantic relationship, is that your question? Or
Oh, it
is
could be
that
any. No, it could be
anybody?
anybody.
Okay. Well, then you say, well, how is it that you feel supported? Become curious about them. What is it that makes you feel supportive? So that you appear to be in a learning conversation, and hopefully you are, because you're interested in them. And if you get clarity around that and you do what they say they prefer, and nothing changes, then you know that you may be with somebody who's going to keep moving the goalposts, because it's not about you showing them whatever it is they're complaining you're not doing. It's about them being right and winning. So they will just move the goalposts, and now there'll be something else you're not doing well enough.
Well, oftentimes they feel threatened, so they want to remove that threat, which is something that maybe that person cannot do. It's
Yeah,
like,
that's
I don't
right.
want you to succeed in anything, and I don't want you to have good relationships with anybody else but me, kind of thing.
Well, you have to recognize that for what it is. That's somebody who's living in total fear. And then we offer them the kind and honest things that we say to them, but they may also be toxic to us. And when you're around toxic people, notice it and distance yourself. You can't change toxic people.
Yeah. So what I'm getting is if I can't mutually support them in the way they really want to be supported because it's toxic to me, it's not a relationship I should probably choose to be in
Exactly.
if I
And
have a choice.
we are not good at endings, Laura. People are not good at endings. They kind of get all raggedy and, oh, well, maybe it'll change and maybe she'll have a better day. And maybe they were just, off their meds or whatever. But that's why we need to step back and look at the patterns that are there, the traits and the cycles that are happening and happening. That's what I write about with the hijackals. In fact, I've got a brand new program that's coming out next week. It's a self-study program called Seeing the Cycles. And it's a bunch of videos and writing and quizzes and reflection questions and everything that you can do if you think that you're with a crazy making person and you want to really understand what's going on and change things, this is what you start with. So it's really important to see the patterns, the traits, and the cycles. And when you're in it, it's really hard to see it. So you need to take the program, step back, see all of that, go, wow. In the program, there are the 10 hallmarks of hijackal's, video on each one of them, and lots of worksheets and things. And you have to go, whoa, in this relationship, I've got 7 of those things that I'm seeing all the time. Well, you can't change that. You could stand on your head and spit wooden nickels for a year, and you can't please them. And so it's important to know what you're dealing with. And, as we've said so many times, you just want a simple thing to do, go to hijackals.com and read How to Spot a Hijackal.
Now, how can they find the cycles content? Where do they get that?
That's on forrelationshiphelp.com. It won't be up until next Tuesday, but certainly be ready for that because it can really, really help you.
I think that's great. And so here, forrelationshiphelp.com, if you need it visually, there it is.
And if you're wondering about how to spell hijackals, there it is. Hijack, ALS. So it's either hijack with an ALS or it's jackals with an HI before it.
Awesome. If anybody wants to access the Feminine Power Cards, you can get them at femininepowercards.com as well.
Yeah, and they're a great Christmas gift. I've said many times in this program, they sit on the altar in my bedroom and I'll just go by and pick one and it's a lovely moment. Just, oh, there's something to think about today.
They're really great to get you back into the space of your truth and that curious state and that compassionate state as well. And I know that's what I use them. I put them in my desk here. I keep them handy. I flip through them. I pick one, and they're really great for balancing. So again, if anybody has questions or comments you want to add, you're welcome to put them in the Facebook comments here on Transform Your Relationships Live. If you're listening on a different channel, a different page, come over to the Facebook page, Transform Your Relationships Live, and we'll answer, I'll see them for you.
Yeah, I just want to say something about when you're interacting with a person and you think they may be toxic. One of the ways that you will know is that you're always on edge when you're near them because you're just waiting for them to get you. Waiting for them to pounce, waiting for them to slice and dice. And if that's the case, observe that before you go into another encounter with them and do some learning about it, because you may be going thinking, oh, I don't do this very well. And it may not be you at all, but they are absolutely dedicated to making everything your fault. And so you need to have that perspective to step back and say, wow, I'm taking this on. I'm taking it on that I should do something. I'm not good enough. I've never lived up to their expectations. You are not here to live up to the expectations of other people, right? You're here to live up to your own expectations. But if you don't spend any time by yourself figuring out what your expectations are and your desires and your values, then you will go flopping in the breeze to other people's expectations of you. So this is a really good time to find out, who do I want to be in the holidays? And what can I do to maintain that? And what am I willing to do to allow me to withdraw and remember that? and then go back into a conversation. You deserve to do that because you matter. It's not all about them.com. It's not all about me.com. It's a collaboration. It is a conversation. And if you're unsafe repeatedly, then notice that.
It's great to be with that, to notice that. And I like the idea of, hey, it's okay to withdraw. If things aren't going well and one does not know how to respond, that's a perfect time. If you haven't taken the time beforehand, take it during the
Yeah,
moment
exactly.
for yourself and give yourself the gift. And I think the holidays can be a gift in growth. And I love that word collaboration.
Sure. And know that you can withdraw in very, very genuine ways. Like, wow, I'm really finding it stuffy in here. I think I'll just go for a little walk. I'll be back. Hold that thought. Or excuse yourself to the restroom, or there's somebody I haven't spoken to. Tell the genuine truths, your truths. And just do it with grace. Because there are two words that I would love to erase from the vocabulary of all English speaking people, and we've got them hooked together, and they don't belong together because they have no place together, and that is brutal honesty. We have no need to do that. Brutal honesty is only for those people for whom you would like to drive a dagger through their heart and be done with them forever, metaphorically speaking. If you just need to tell it like it is because they are not listening to you, they will not hear you, they will not see you, they will not be interested in you, then yes, you may just say, I have no further interest in this relationship. But you do not have to be brutally honest about them. Tell the truth about yourself. And that may be as simple as, I'm out of here and I won't be back.
Yeah. So many of us oftentimes think, oh, we got to communicate everything. Got to let them know where they are and how they've impacted somebody else, how they've impacted me. I think a lot of what I do is I take responsibility for what happens, how I respond to what happens out there. I don't necessarily have to change them. And I
You
don't
can't.
exactly. I can't change them. So why spend time trying to change them when I want to really change myself? So they're the perfect opportunity and gift for me to learn, okay, well, do I want to walk away from them? Do I, from that relationship, do I want to still have a relationship? If so, can I make a request of them that they'll either honor or not? Or do I have to change something and accept something about them?
Or in that request, you can go one step further and you can set a boundary. This doesn't work for me. This works for me. Could we agree to have that happen in our relationship? So sometimes, you don't see people very often. So you make a request. You say, well, since I've been away, one thing I've learned is that I like it when people treat me as an equal. You just make a statement like that, see what they do with it. But don't make it about them. Make it about you and your choices and the life that you want to have, the relationships you want to have, how you want to feel in the relationship. And if you've expressed some of those things and you've expressed your boundaries and they just trample all over you, really good thing to walk away from. You can always send a card. The mail service still works, but you don't have to be in their presence.
Yeah. And then there are those relationships you have to be in the presence of if you want to be in the presence of their loved ones as well.
That's right. And, I had somebody in my Facebook group this morning say, my ex and his girlfriend were not supposed to go to my son's concert tonight. And that's how my son wanted it. And it was all agreed. And this morning he wrote and said, well, we're coming. What should I do? Should I stay home? Absolutely not. This is time for you to focus and learn how to focus clearly. What's important is your son's concert. Your son wants you there. Your son wants it to be a wonderful time. And your son is concerned about his father and his girlfriend showing up. So here's what you do. You go, You look as beautiful as possible. You are as composed and assured as possible. You make no eye contact purposefully. You do not cry. And you sit in the front row and thoroughly focus on your son. And nothing is about anything but your son. Do not let people scare you away from what's really important to you because you think that they're going to be trouble. Learn to be assertive.
Amen, sister. Yeah, tell
Yes.
it like it is. And we stand in one's power. This is a great place to wrap up today's show because I want to wish everyone a very happy Thanksgiving, a joyous time, and an enriching time. And I love the word we used today, empowering time for yourself and your families. And if we can be of support, we're here for you. We will be back after the holidays with the show. A couple of weeks after the holidays, I think we're going to come back and right in time for the next set of holidays.
Yeah, we'll be back in the very beginning of December, and that'll be great, toward the beginning. And we'll have a couple of shows in December to. If you have any questions, be sure to come to the next show because there's another holiday coming.
And if you have difficult people, we want to help you navigate that as well and empower you and also help you thrive in your business. Most of what I do is helping people thrive in their business, but you got to get through working with difficult people too at work. And all of this applies that we talked about, but we are navigating, we are being called to stand more for kindness, truth, and our own happiness, I think, and having more kindness and happiness in the world. So let's do that.
Yeah, let's do that. And I hope everybody has a very joyous, gratitude filled Thanksgiving.
Oh, yeah, let's remember all the things we're grateful for. Oh, that's good. I'm going to do that on the plane. Just keep writing everything I'm grateful for because that puts you in such a space of abundance versus lack and fear, you know. So, great way to end today. We will be back after the holidays. Bye for now.
Bye bye.